Please entertain us with your knowledge.
Right. Okay. So we have an extension. Absolutely brilliant. You know, I've been at this with UDAMED since April 2011. In 2012, they started talking about the new regulations coming through, and we expected to be finished UDAMED by 2018, 2019. And yet here we are in 2023, giving another extension. So when Joe asked me to come along and talk about this one, I was a bit, okay, because I'm not a regulator. I'm an IT person. It just so happens that UDAMED is IT. So I did a lot of digging into this. And as soon as this proposal came out, I immediately contacted the commission. I said, what effect on UDAMED? Because obviously that's my baby. And they said nothing. The dates, everything else remains exactly the same. Right? The dates for UDAMED remain exactly the same. But there are some unintended consequences. Now, yesterday, they passed in the Parliament. It's not officially, and it's not officially binding until it appears in the official journal. If they're quick, that's going to be maybe in a week's time, 2 weeks' time, whatever it is. But once it's published, it's legally binding. And to be honest, it's more or less there. They just like this, cross these T's and dot these I's, etc. And for me, or for them, it's to block the imminent shortages and to give notified bodies more time to assess things and get all the certification out there, which is brilliant. But the net effect is that manufacturers are going to have more time to manufacture and sell legacy devices if they meet the specific criteria.
Criteria now, for what? MDD or
the criteria for extending their legacy devices.
I see.
And I've got my notes here on the left. So if you see me swinging my eyes to the left,
no, that's all good. So if I understand you, you're saying that this extension comes with conditions?
Yes, small conditions. So the initial conditions, there can be no significant changes in the device. Significant changes in the device or its intended purpose. No unacceptable risks. And then we get new deadlines, as if we didn't have enough deadlines. We've got 3 new ones. Your QMS has to be in place before the 26th of May, 2024. You must have a formal application in with the notified body before 26th of May, 2024, and you must have a formal agreement signed no later than the 26th of September, 2024. And what that will give you, Class 3 and 2B extended until the 31st of December 2027. Now, for the Class 2B, there's a list that are very precise for that 2027, and those outside that list are for 2028. It's like the Class 2B exceptions, your sutures and things like that. Your Class 3 implantable, custom made, 26th of May 2026. Again, that's adding another few years. The sell-off period is gone, and gone for IVDR, or for in vitro. I keep going IVDR. So the sell-off periods are gone. Now, there is all sorts of little caveats in this. And the one thing about all these lovely new deadlines is they bring a new point of failure. They bring a new bottleneck, because there is going to be a whole load of companies that are going to go, fantastic, we can just stop now, keep manufacturing legacy, and oh yeah, then we need to do this right at the last minute. Don't leave this to the last minute. If you are intending to do it, you need to get in there. But there's also I also spotted some problems with this. Now, for you to get the formal agreement of the notified body, you must get in before the expiry date of your current cert. You must have a written agreement with them, or you can get a derogation from the competent authority. But then there's a new concept on this, and I'm going to read this one. A new concept of device intended to substitute a legacy device. All right. Now, what they're saying is you can apply for the extension, and if you tell them that you're going to substitute a device, then you can get this extension. But then there's no point, if you're going to substitute the device, first of all, the device can be very different. There's nothing in there that says it has to be X points close to the legacy one. It can be different. Now, there is obviously going to be some sort of guidance that's going to come with this, and they're talking about a document being presented on the 13th of March. But if you're saying my device A, legacy device, and I'm going to substitute it with device B, why would you ever bother following on with device A for MDR or IVDR? You wouldn't, because you're never going to market it, but you can keep selling it. Now, there is a piece where it talks about how much and for how long you can sell it. And the legacy device, it's approximately a year after the transition period that, in theory, that's as long as you can manufacture it, or that's as long as you can market it. But there's no throwaway time. If you have items in the supply chain, knock yourself out. They're good forever. There's an unlimited time on this. So my thinking on this one, and again, maybe it's devil's advocate. I'm sure there's some far greater minds in here that will have different ideas. But if I wanted to keep flogging this legacy device, I know I'm never going to put it under MDR or IVDR, too expensive. We already have problems with it, so I'm just going to dump this one as soon as I have to. For now, I would try and get this extension. I would manufacture the bejesus out of this thing and push it into the supply chain. And I can sell it until 2030, 2040. There's unlimited time given in this. And one of the dangers is some of these devices, really, they should be gone long ago. No, I can't pick one off the top of my head. I just base on what I read in the papers, etc. But if you have a dodgy device, you manufacture enough of it, stick it in the supply chain, it just keeps going. And what are you going to do with these substitutes? Let's say device A, device B. Are they then going to be in competition with each other? Your competitor has a legacy device that does exactly the same thing, but your new MDR one is a little bit better. And because you've invested so much money, you have to charge a little bit more. Does that mean the old legacy devices that have been manufactured humongously are going to take the market away from your new device? From there's four groups that I see that are affected by this: manufacturers, QAs, RAs, competent authorities, and the public. Now, the public one is very simple. Devices are going to stay on the market, but they don't get the transparency they were supposed to get. I mean, how do they know that this company has been given an extension for a good reason? Maybe the company, their certificate ran out X amount of months ago, but yet they managed to get an agreement quietly with the notified body so they can slip the product back in again. So that whole transparency thing is gone. For the competent authorities, now they're going to have to track or continue to track these legacy devices for years more. And for the...
That's my bad. I don't know what. Hold on a second. Okay, hold on.
You muted me in full flow.
I did, but you were echoing and I couldn't explain it.
The echo was coming because somebody else, I think Larry's microphone is open.
Or maybe you shared your link with some, I don't know, but here we are. Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't share things, Joe.
Okay, go ahead. Funny. Well, you're sharing your knowledge.
A small price to pay to share a podium with yourself.
Go on. You know, as we talk about this,
yeah,
there's almost a tone of like everything legacy is bad. It's not necessarily bad. It just needs
no. There are some fantastic products out there. And one of the reasons I've been telling companies to put their legacy devices in Udamed, as well as their regulation devices, is so they can show the longevity of the device. They can show that it's been on the market for 20 years and look, we haven't had any problems, it's a great product. But there is, and one of the reasons behind the whole MDR and IVDR, one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons was transparency and to try and take off the market devices that weren't good enough to be there. They were good enough to get the certificate, but as years went on, there could have been problems or issues with them. But for the company,
can I ask a quick question though?
Yes, of course.
There are shelf life or expiration dates on those units, so they can't be on for years and years unless the shelf lives are changed.
Yeah.
And that would mean bringing it back and relabeling them and a whole bunch of other things. So to me, it does have an expiration date. They can't sell them forever.
All this regulation does, or all this regulation specifies, is that they're in the supply chain. It doesn't say that you cannot change dates, you cannot do various things. This could be down to interpretation as you go along. But there is,
Yeah,
there is
because
no
you would have to
guidance on
pull
that.
it all back and then send it out. So that's a change in the supply. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to understand it better. So
No, absolutely. And it is all semantics. It is all down to interpretation. And while some companies will interpret it in a good way, there's always a gray area that somebody might take advantage of.
so we have something that'll possibly fall apart because you got some shady person out there selling things. That's wonderful.
They have been in the market, unfortunately. No, the majority of them aren't. It is a very small amount. But who's going to police this bit? Who's going to police what's in the supply chain? Notified bodies, competent authorities? There's no information on that at all. And if you're extending your legacy device, the original notified body is responsible for the surveillance and the declaration of conformity, etc. But it's, even though you've applied, or even though you're going to apply for, we'll say, a new notified body with the MDR side, the transfer of responsibility isn't automatic. It says it should happen. But legally, the new guys are not necessarily responsible. They seem to have already given themselves a lot of get outs on this one. For the manufacturers, no, the manufacturers, the sell-off periods are gone. Okay, even with the dates in question, like Jan said. If you have the legacy device, you might necessarily going to have to recertify it, but you do need to get the letter from the notified body that you are going to extend, and in theory, go down the road of moving to the regulations, getting the recertified under the regulations. But even when you go to the notified body, it doesn't specify that the notified body has to check anything. No, odds are they're going to check the technical documentation. But is that the technical documentation from the legacy device time when they gave you the certificate? Or are they going to demand that you need some new MDR stuff? In theory, you're supposed to be MDR ready or moving that way. And this is only to allow the notified bodies to eventually get to you, and to give them time to get to you. But I think one of the biggest things about this so far is that there's the potential for more confusion, more deadlines, and more possible bottlenecks. So as to how good it is going to be for the manufacturers, I'm not entirely sure. I think it does open the door to give you another few years of the legacy devices at least. I mean, we're looking at what, a 2 or 3 year, where am I gone? 2027, 2028. That's pushing it out quite a bit. Even if you do have your expiry dates on it and you ship something on the 30th of December, 2028, that'll still give you a good shelf life going forward. And it really does extend the marketability of the legacy devices, which, like I said, in turn, will potentially be competition for the newer, more expensive ones.
If you assume that manufacturers are in this to make money, I don't see how it could be have a net negative effect of giving more liberty to do the things the way, business as usual for more time. I actually wondered for your business, Richard, if it would prolong the amount of time before people use your product, or will it give us more time for those who were otherwise on the fence about even trying to be marketing in the EU? Like, okay, now that could be reasonable. Let's get on this.
Well, one of the things that we noticed very quickly, like within a couple of days of the proposal, is we started getting a lot of questions from companies who initially were only going to upload regulation devices. They had said absolutely not to the legacy devices. They're gone. We're only going to go with the regulation ones. But now there's a lot of them beginning to push to get the regulation ones up there as well. And it's I think it's an unintended consequence of this. Once Udamed becomes fully functional, it's in 2024. The day after it becomes fully functional, all serious incidents must be reported in Udamed. To report a serious incident in Udamed, your device data must be in Udamed. So if you're going to extend your legacy devices for 2-3 years, now they got to go in. At least I would strongly suggest putting them in just in case there is a serious incident. So for our business, the only time we've been hit so far, the only time we've noticed slowdown so far was when the commission delayed Udamed last June. Oh my God, for 4 or 5 months, it went very quiet. Like, obviously we're still uploading data and that, but new people coming in, asking questions, etc. It went very, very quiet. Now, it was fantastic for us. We managed to push ahead with our software, and I mentioned to Joe before, we're working on the FDA stuff at the moment as well. But the inquiries, the new companies coming in, it went very quiet. Since middle of January, I think we've done more between middle of January and middle of February than we did between September and December. And I was speaking with some of the notified bodies, and they noticed the exact same thing. As soon as the commission said, we're delaying this bit, companies sat back and just, we're not going to touch this for a while longer. We've got several clients lined up that told us last July, August, yeah, we're definitely going to be using you for this. We'll start next year.
Right. Luke, you've been patient. You have a question. And that's the wrong button to push, Luke.
Hi, Richard. To us, you're Mr. Udamed. The latest timeline I saw was that all modules are mandatory end of 2024. And is that also applicable to the legacy MDD devices? Or only if you have something to report?
The comments that I'm making about the legacy devices are my opinion. Because once a vigilance issue happens, the only way you can enter a vigilance issue is if the device is in there already.
Yes.
And for the serious incident, you've got 2 days. So if your IT guy is on holidays and you don't have access to that data very, very quickly, then your 2 days are gone. And believe me, Udamed is going to be the last thing you're thinking about if you have a serious incident. So for risk mitigation, I suggest putting in the legacy devices. From a marketing standpoint, I suggest putting in the legacy devices because then you can show the longevity of the product. And actually, one complete side note that we came across last year, some companies are starting to use Udamed as a product catalog. Importers and distributors are looking this up now to see what products are in this area, what can we use. So if you're only going to put in your regulation device, your market start date is after you get your certificate. So in theory, it's only a few months old if you're looking at it up now. But if you put in your legacy device as well, then you can show the whole history so that when these importers and distributors and stuff are looking for things, they're not going to take the brand new shiny one that's only a few weeks old. They're going to want to protect everybody and their market. So they're going to try and get something that has some sort of history behind it. And again, completely my opinion on that, but I strongly recommend putting up the legacy devices.
I think I would do too, but I know a lot of CEOs who think if it's not mandatory, don't do it.
Yeah, but when it goes horribly wrong for them, it's the CEO's neck is on the line. He's the one that's going to have to go explain to the shareholders.
And they would have had to do so imminently anyhow. I mean, for me, it just feels like this is not a credible bit of regulation. As you said, you started working on this in 2011. And
yeah.
every time was like, no, seriously. Michelle, you undoubtedly remember our countdown campaign.
Yeah.
You could run that for the rest of your life.
And here's another beauty. The commission asked the industry for feedback. They opened up a thing for 1 week where if you could comment on these new regulations, you could comment, you can suggest things. And they actually were going to leave it there for 3 weeks until so many people became interested, cut it back to 1 week. There was 200 and something submissions. And they have decided we're not going to do anything with any of them until we do the review in 2027. So they've basically ignored all the, now some of the comments that they got in were just people bitching, but there was some good suggestions in there as well. But they've just pushed everything back. They're going to do a full review in 27. That means we're going to probably see another major release of UDAMED in 2030. So that countdown that you mentioned with Michelle, she could just keep this rolling.
Yep, for eternity, possibly. I think I got a decade, a good decade. That
Yeah.
That's a lot of content. Congratulations.
You're welcome.
I'm thinking of my packaging standards for medical devices, at least terminally sterilized medical devices, and they don't have should, they have shall in a whole bunch of places. That you're talking about regulations that say should on some of this stuff. So how do we say compliance with a standard when it doesn't actually, when it sort of overrides what you're saying is happening with the UDAMED and the shoulds? So
that could be me paraphrasing as well, by the way. They do have a lot of publications on the different sections that I'm not au fait with. I read them, I publish them, but I would not be as deep into the labeling side of things as a lot of you guys would. So if I say,
yeah, I try not to do labeling at all, but I have, what I'm finding with at least packaging, they make us tie together a whole bunch of things to show compliance with standard that a lot of people actually want. And it's more than just packaging stuff. It includes labeling, it includes human factors, it includes sterilization and quality manuals or QMS systems, all that kind of stuff. And they're shalls, they're not shoulds. So I'm
for that level of preciseness, I would probably lean more towards talking to David or Michelle on it.
Well, yeah, I know what they are, and most people don't worry about the packaging, but I know it's there. And they're actually starting to try and write standards for other things besides the terminally sterilized medical devices based on that same standard. So yeah, we're having trouble trying to square it up.
Yeah, and I based on what I read on this, this is the new fantastic piece of regulation they put out there to help everybody. I can still see holes in it. So when the real regulators start looking at it, there's a huge amount of gray area in there. Is it good or bad? I don't know. I mean, for me, Joe asked, how's it going to affect me? I think we're going to be busier. I think we're going to be uploading a lot more legacy devices than was intended. Does that make me happy? Absolutely. Makes me very happy. But how you guys are going to fare with it, I'm not so sure. I mean, I know this document they're working on, they said it'll be presented on March 13, and they said they're going to put together a like a working group for stakeholders. But these working groups, they're invited audiences. They're your MedTech Europe, they're the few special friends that they might have who stay quiet at these working groups, don't cause any trouble, so they get invited back next time. But the commission think they're brilliant. So I don't know where this one's going to end. I think there's going to be a huge amount of discussion around it. I mean, it's a short document, but even in my notes here, I've got 5 pages of notes here. So when someone with real regulatory knowledge looks at it and looks for the shalls and the shoulds and the maybes or maybe nots, God, that's going to be it's going to be a recipe for disaster. And again, the recipe for disaster then with the new deadlines, the new bottlenecks, maybe companies should, it's not my place to say, but maybe companies should ignore a lot of this stuff and just push forward with the regulation side of things and just get everything into UDAMED, get their way ahead of the deadlines and avoid the headaches. Because I think there's some companies going to have awful headaches with this. Do you know what else to say there, Joe?
I put myself on mute because, can you hear music now?
No. Am I
Okay.
supposed to?
It's just that my unwakeable son's new solution to waking is having his alarm be a cacophonous amount of music. And I thought
How-
for sure it was going to just, he's all the way across the house. I can hear it
How
clearly.
old is your son?
He's 19. So
Nice.
college next year, and he won't have parents to wake him. This is way off topic.
No. My son's 26 and he's just started his regulatory career. He's gone in with Bosch and Lom, I think, on the labeling side. Very happy father. He's now his own boss.
And regulatory. I wonder where he gets it from.
We kind of had to push one way or the other.
So
Where's your son going to school, Joe?
mine, the younger one is going to the only school in America that has a Bachelor of Arts program for canine behavioral training. He is going to be a dog trainer.
Can he
There was
come
no
to my
secondary
house?
school, no backup plan.
Can he intern at my house?
Do you have room and board?
Sure, only, I'm gonna
Let me
send
ask
you
you
a
this.
bill if my dogs are still badly behaved at the end of the summer.
Michelle's
ask you, I know you're
administrative
being
leadership
cute, but-
team all have 4 legs.
Mhm.
I know you're being cute, but do you really want a Hage living in your house? Just
No.
think about what
No,
you're asking.
absolutely not.
Just
A lot of
ask.
backpedaling there. And Joe, you mentioned a backup plan. Did you have a backup plan
Did I have a backup plan?
when you were that age? No, you fly by the seat of your pants and you make decisions based on what crap life throws at you.
David, bring us back on topic.
I don't want to do that. I'm having too much fun. But so I've attended your training course a couple years ago. It was
Yes, you
excellent.
did.
Two-day course. You're still offering that, right?
We've made it easier.
Okay.
People were struggling with the 2-day thing. It was just too much information. So we've cut
Yeah.
it down to half a day.
Oh, wow. So do you have a
And-
link? Maybe you can put the link in the chat, because I'm not sure I could find the other link. Do you think you could do that,
Yeah.
or send it an email somewhere or to Joe and he can distribute it?
I'm always good to share this, but we cut it down to half a day because people were leaving with headaches. When I first started doing the training, we were doing one full day, 8:30 in the morning to 5:30.
I mean, that was the IT piece. That first part was the IT piece.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the majority of people coming weren't IT.
Yeah.
So we kind of squashed the IT bit down. You still need a little bit of IT because it's
Yeah.
still software, no matter which way you look at it.
Yeah.
But it still saves weeks of doing the stuff on your own. I'm just looking for the link here now.
Yeah. And the price, I don't know if the price probably has gone down since it's if it's public information. I don't know if you can share.
Hey,
that.
it's always public information. €695.
Okay.
And people that did the course 2.5 years ago
Yeah.
are still coming back with questions now and again.
Oh, yeah.
And they're still getting answered, which is even more impressive.
Michelle, what have you publicly shared about the MDR delay?
A ton of stuff. Like I talked for 2 hours.
Synopsis for folks.
Do what?
I say, of course you have. I'm asking for just a soundbite so that our audience can hear your thoughts on it.
I think that the only people that it's going to benefit are the ones that were already actively pursuing MDR and logistically couldn't make it happen because of notified body capacity. I don't think that people who were holding their breath thinking there is going to be a delay and didn't start have reasonably got a shot of meeting these requirements. And I really don't see how it's going to help yours.
Okay, so a net positive effect for folks who were struggling to hit it, but were active and made pursuit. And you don't think there's a small likelihood that it's grown the category of devices that will be available once it becomes in effect. Because there won't be more manufacturers entering the fray given the greater. premium.
I think they heard that I was going to hire a trainer for them, so they're acting extra bad and loud. I don't. Stop it. It's chaos over here.
You
What
were in the middle of a
question?
sentence.
What,
Everybody
Michelle,
sat
what
up
was
and
it?
shouted.
go ahead, Rains.
You were explaining to me the other day about the, time crunch. It takes 6 months to get an agreement in place, and
Oh,
kind of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
with that timeline, it was still going to be impossible unless you'd already started or
Yeah.
something. That was, to me, that was like this light bulb that was turning on. But what was it that
Yeah,
you said?
so this whole thing, you almost need like a degree, an advanced degree in math to figure out the formulas to backtrack the dates from when you need to start things. So you've got this, you have to have, like Richard said, you have to have the application in May, and you have to have the contract in September. But it can take 9 months to get from application to contract, because they're evaluating your application, it almost auditing it. It's not just like this logistical, here's my application, yes, we'll take you as a customer. So if it takes 9 months to get a contract, you have to apply in January. And so I also don't think that people are doing the actual kind of math of, I can't just wait till May to start, to get my application, or, it's just not to put my application in, because if you put your application in and you meet that May deadline, you could still miss the September deadline and not have a contract.
It's going to cause an awful lot of headaches. But if people continue to sit back and wait, they're suddenly going to lose a market to sell their product. I mean, don't forget these first regulations came in 2017. I know there's the whole notified body issue, and I know that the notified bodies have ramped up hugely. Some of them taking on hundreds of extra people, but even so, there's still not enough to bring this across the line. But if companies miss the extensions and they miss the recertifications purely because they started a little bit too late, or they took their eye off the ball, they're looking at, I don't know, the UK or Switzerland or something else. I think it's absolutely horrendous way to run your companies. This is stuff that you need to get out there now. And I mean, I know Michelle is talking about the 9 months. Why even wait until the beginning of 9 months? Why not just start? You have to do it anyway.
So my takeaway is that this has just been extra breathing room for the well-intended and extra sales for those who had
It's
no
really
intention
only
of planning.
extra breathing room for the notified bodies. I really don't think that is done in anything for industry. The purpose is to help alleviate notified body capacity and give them more time to process what's in queue and what will be in queue by the original due date.
Right,
And
on
one
the
of
upside
the
of it, though,
notified bodies that I interviewed even told me, he said, there's 36 of us now. It doesn't matter. Wouldn't matter if there's 46, because we're all fighting for the exact same qualified resources. There's not enough people to employ to do this, and it takes too long to train people who are willing to take the jobs.
I hear you, and I believe the manufacturers benefit by virtue of those that would not have been processed through the overstressed notified body will have their work done before a later deadline. True?
And the sell-offs.
And
the sell-off periods being removed. I think that would benefit the companies a lot. But Michelle, you're saying there about the notified bodies and the training and everything. We're now 6 years into this. Since this regulation was enacted, it's been 6 years. Well, it'll be 6 years in, is it March or May? I can't remember now, but 6 years. And some of them had foresight to start doing it a few years ago, but I think a lot of them have, I think a lot of these places underestimated how much is going to be involved in this, because the commission certainly didn't have the figures on how many manufacturers there are, how many devices there are. I actually contacted every competent authority in Europe in December, and I wanted to know the breakdown of manufacturers and how many different devices did they have. How many were you responsible? How many is going into your country? And how many devices has each manufacturer got on sale in your country? There wasn't a single competent authority that could tell me. They could tell me some of the distributors, but they couldn't tell me all the manufacturers. They couldn't tell me the breakdowns of the device counts, none of it. This was information that I could see when I was working in the commission in UDAMED 2, the predecessor to what you guys are using now. We could run a query against the database and see how many manufacturers there were, how many devices each one owned. No, data was horrendous. It's not very clear, but even so, the competent authorities, the national competent authorities of countries cannot tell us how many devices by how many companies are on sale in their jurisdiction.
Richard, you're very much a friend of this community. I'd like to know, for your business, what are the marketing implications for you? How will you use this new information to grow your business?
I hadn't actually thought about it, to be honest with you, Joe. There's a far bigger push that has to be given to the legacy device side now. We have to, and again, I've been pushing that for a long time anyway, but now there's reason behind it, because when they moved the dates first, the initial thing was that it was going to be, you had to register your companies starting in March 26th, 2020, and then by May 26th, 2020, the competent authorities would have validated all companies, and then you were going to have to start entering some data. We were due to go live with vigilance. I think it was around March 2020 as well, and then you were going to have to put in the legacy devices because of this whole serious incident thing. But then they moved the dates and shifted the goalposts, so it came to the point where you were not going to have to enter the legacy devices unless you just wanted to show the longevity for the marketing side. But because they've again shifted goalposts, now the legacy devices have to be entered if there's any sort of a risk of a serious incident. And even then, I still think they should be. So from our marketing point of view, it is simply keep going as we are, keep banging away at trying to persuade companies to get the data in. They have to do it anyway. So I don't know why companies are holding back, because even if it's 5 years' time, they'd still have to put the data in there. And while the regulatory minefield, the international minefield is, I would say stable, but it's not really stable. We'd say relatively stable. If some big country, if the FDA changed things in the morning, suddenly you've got a headache, but you still have the other headache sitting there that you could have got rid of 2 years ago. I've got some clients that have had their data in there for over 12 months now. They're nice and relaxed. They can go look at all this other stuff. They have the data in there. I've got other companies that are really going to run down to the deadline. I've tried to explain how long it takes to get this data together, because like Michelle said, these things take time. It takes months to get your applications in there. It can take months to get your data together. If your data is in all these different systems and spreadsheets all over the place, it can really take months for people to do it. Now, we come in the middle piece, right? You've got the collection of the data, you've got the submission of the data where we are, but then you're going to have the surveillance of the data and the keeping everything up to date afterwards. Those two pieces at the end, they're two things that we're now looking at as well. So we would do the whole project end to end as well. So if that answers your question on the marketing, I think that we left a lot of business that we should have taken, because we were just selling the products. Here's the products, get your data in there. We'll support you all the way and explain what's right, what's wrong, but you have to put the data in there. A lot of companies, they want someone to walk in the door, take the entire project all the way through. And that's the direction we're going in now.
So you're hiring folks for data entry?
It's not just data entry.
It certainly sounds like a more attractive package for those who are just
the whole thing. Yeah, we've got several clients, and what they're selling is the entire thing. They're selling the entire thing, and they're regulatory people, and they send in a few of their regulatory people. They get all the data together. In the background, they're using our service to do everything else, and then they're doing the after part to keep all the procedures up to date, etc.
Mhm.
So if they're all doing it, I don't see why we don't do it. I think we did drop the ball on business wise, software wise, IT wise, systems wise. It's brilliant. It is so smooth how this thing works. It's really good. But on a business side, those two ends of what we do, the collating of the data and the management of it afterwards, I do think that we missed out on some of that.
Get on it.
Oh, we're there. We're there.
So you
Within the
do
next
have-
couple of months, we're
You
also
do have
going
a
to
team in place to do it now where you didn't?
some of them are with us, some of them are other companies that we're kind of tying up
Sure.
with. And we're also just about ready to test on the Good ID system as well. So I'll do the uploads there. We're in line to do the testing with the Swiss-Med when Swiss-Med comes online. I did a presentation for Swissmedic last year, and I was in touch with them there a couple of weeks ago, so that once they're ready for testing, we're front and center. We're right in there.
Well, I don't know what proactive marketing you are doing, but it does sound as though the fuller solution that you are able to support now could be the thrust of a campaign, if not the next campaign. I'm grateful for your time today. Thank you. And in the next 2 weeks,
Thank
we're
you very
going
much.
to talk
Joe,
about.
can I get in one quick question?
Of course.
Richard, your questions to the notified bodies about, manufacturers and getting the data, that speaks, to the heart of my business, getting the data out of UDMED. Once this stuff is live, is there going to be any problems or restrictions getting the safety data, the registration data, the UDI data, right? Is that going to be as open as the FDA data systems?
No. There is you can search the front database. You can search the public searching. We created a small system that would pull all the data back for you. So when I was in the commission, we did talk about these open data sets, and it was going to be a big part of this. And we'd quite a few meetings on it. So when I left, obviously I'm not in there anymore. So I contacted them, geez, it was September, October time, and I asked them about the open data sets, and they said no. They said, we have absolutely no plans to provide open data sets, which is terrible. It is absolutely awful, because they haven't even had serious discussions yet on the level of reporting, internal reporting, like internal UDMED reporting, that they could create or provide or allow people like yourself to look at. All they're doing at the moment is allowing you to do the searches on the web. But the open data sets, all that lovely data that's sitting there waiting for market intelligence people, they're not publishing it. At least
So
not
the whole intent
future.
of providing information to industry and to agencies in order to improve safety, the whole point of all this is to use that data.
There will be reports. There will be cut down reports, but it will not give you the raw data. These will be PDFs or spreadsheets or things, but there will not be the full.
Because they lack the skill to operate.
No.
Or because they
UDMED
quite
team-
deliberately want to keep that data private.
No, none of the above. They have the skill sets. They have the people there to do it. In fairness, to dump out an open data set is not a big deal. It really is. Write a big query and just blah, there it is. You do with what you want.
Okay.
But the UDMED team has over 50 people on it now, 50. When I left, there was only 23. So there's no shortage of quality or technical people in there. It is simply because they're over the business team, which is quite small. They're overwhelmed. There's too much. They've got industry shouting this side. They've got the developers shouting on the other side. They've lawyers. They've lots of people pulling them hither and
Are you
thither.
saying
Tell
it's simply a low
them about the
priority?
consultant structure, Richard.
Who said that?
Me.
Michelle?
Michelle. I was looking at all the faces there trying to figure out who said it. The consultant structure. Remind me how I put it to you.
You said they have like an ungodly number of consultants and it's not a one firm.
Yeah. The European Commission do these framework contracts where they do these massive calls for tender. And I think that the IT ones are like 1,000 developers for 1,000 days, right? And these go out to all the agencies. The agencies come together and they put in, they kind of group together, consolidate. The word escapes me now. Consortiums, that's the word I'm looking for. So many agencies come together in consortiums. And you might have 5 levels, 5 different consortiums. And then they pick someone from this one and someone from this one. And then they kind of hire someone from there. And they're all consultants. All 50 people on this team are all consultants on day rates. And hey, if they have spent less than 30 million on Unimed so far, I would be very surprised. I'm not saying you're getting value for money. I just said I'd be very surprised if they spent less than that. And everybody at this stage is all over the place. Since COVID, people are all working from home. Now, they're doing, in fairness to the team, they are doing brilliantly considering what they're up against. But I don't think having a widespread of contractors and a widespread of people not employed by one company, not on a long-term setup, is such a good idea for an IT project. When I left, I was project manager number 2. Myself and this other guy were running it together. And within 12 months, we were at project manager number 12. Now they've got 7 or 8 different managers at different levels in there.
Richard, I don't want to belabor the point too much, but I'm confused. You said running an open source query is easy. You also said they're overwhelmed. So
they're overwhelmed with business requirements.
Yes, I understand. But if it is easy to run a query, what is are you saying simply that, yes, that's easy and so is a lot of other things, so that's just not what we're going to get to?
They don't see it as a priority.
Even though industry does. It's like, who are they helping?
Yeah.
Who are they representing? What? Okay.
There seems to be.
This feels very circular to me.
It does. There seems to be a bit of a disconnect. As far as the commission are concerned, they think they're representing the citizens. 99% of the time, the decisions they're making are more for business. But when it comes to the medical device side, there does seem to be a lack of trust. At least with the meetings that I was privy to, there seems to be a lack of trust between them and industry. And
what do we do with that?
Industry lies.
Okay, that's next week we'll talk about, I don't know. I mean, really, I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, I know. It's quite difficult. I mean, I remember at some of the working group meetings, people from industry asking for specific things or making suggestions that were from an IT point of view, were very valid and could have helped. And it was no. One of the things that someone asked for was, were they going to do a mobile app to allow people to search for devices? And I didn't see why not. We had the technical capabilities, so I suggested yes, but the person in charge said no, absolutely not. So what I did now is I had my team write an app and we have it for sale. So you can scan the human readable part of the barcode and it'll search Unimed for you.
Maybe that's your business opportunity to be the.
But it's there.
Chasm between what is happening and what needs.
What's needed.
Yeah.
Richard, will you drop your?
They have the opportunity to do great things with this data, and sometimes I think they drop the ball. Sorry, Ross.
No, I said, will you drop your email? There's a conversation we should probably have. You drop your email in the chat or something.
Yeah, I'll do that straight away.
I got it for you. I've already.
Thanks.
It here. To everyone. There you go.
You were faster than I was.
Thank you for. Well, he's in Slack, folks, so you can talk with him.
Okay.
Thank you. Next week, Ty Hagler is going to talk to us about prototyping, and the following week, my business school buddy, John Friedland, is at Cleveland Clinic, and he's going to talk to us how they are approaching venture investing. So I'm looking forward to that. That's on March 3rd. Thanks everyone for joining, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks a million, Joe.
Bye for now.